Hello, everyone. Good morning. It's a Sunday, so we are greeting everyone a blessed Sunday. If you are coming from your Sunday worship, I hope that you were able to reconnect to the Almighty God we have. If you have not been in the church like me, I've never been out of my apartment since March because of some positive cases were in my place where I am in. I've been stuck here, so just I hope you are able to do some your Sunday prayers also, just to reconnect with the Almighty Being with above us. So right now, we are on our episode 7 for empowerED live discussion. And we've been talking about a lot of academic things in empowerED. We talk about STEM, innovation, how we do assessments online, and all those kinds of topics. And yesterday I did my fourth episode for Edu Lectures over in YouTube, and one thing that really came out during the discussion is the insight that at this time when we are doing distance education for the first time, we focus on making the academic aspect right and perfect, that we forget that in the whole education program that we are offering to our students, there are also non academic things or non academic aspects that also matter, that are of equal status with the academic aspect of education. At some point in one of the discussions, in a lot of the things that I've read, in a time of an emergency or like a pandemic, the main point really of education is not about academic achievement. It's helping our students cope with what's happening, at the same time encouraging them to continue learning at this time when everything's going crazy, right? It's literally everything is going crazy right now. So for our session for this Sunday morning, we will be focusing on social emotional learning. In how do we support our students in areas that go beyond academics? And I am very happy to welcome to the episode four incredible moms who are also experts in the field of education, in the field of education technology. And we are just so happy to have you here. Just a note before we start, for those who are waiting for their certificates, all certificates for last week's session were already given out to all our participants who were able to finish the evaluation or the feedback form. If you have not received it yet, that means that you entered the wrong email address. So please make sure that you message us so that we will check on how we can help you with that. And just a shout out, um, we have our loyal subscribers here and new faces. Of course, I see familiar faces in the comment chat. So, good morning to all of you. Happy Sunday. We have, again, teachers coming from Masbate, from Mindanao, from Mandaue, from Misamis Occidental Division. Of course, up north. So, thank you for my fellow Ilocanos for supporting Empower Ed. So, we will now proceed to our discussion so that we will have more time to talk about a very important part of education this time of the pandemic. If you have thoughts, if you have questions, please don't forget to chime in our comment chat. Our speakers, our guest panels can actually read your comments, so we will be interacting with you. All right. So let's start first. I am very happy to welcome the three. We have three right now. We're waiting for our guest, but she'll just gonna pop in later on. Let me start with our first guest. She's Coach Cristine. Hi, Coach Cristine.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today.
Coach Cristine is her real name is Cristine Alcala. She is a former teacher in my school, and she's now a certified life coach in Key School Manila. Let's hear from her later on because we will be learning a lot from her experience of supporting students, especially this time of the pandemic. So, good morning, Christine, Coach Christine.
Good morning.
And adding also is Jessica Demegillo. Jessica Demegillo is a super close friend of mine. I work with her in my school, in the school where I teach. And later on, when we talk about supporting students, her expertise is really on digital learning, supporting students. So let's try to dig deeper on that area also. Good morning, Jessica.
Morning, everyone. Morning. Hi. Thank you for joining us. Happy Sunday.
Yes, thank you so much, Jessica. And then we have Miss Maleng Raysag. Miss Maleng Raysag is she does a lot of technology because she's the head of the training center of Power Mac, but she also does a lot of things as a parent. So she puts her knowledge as a trainer, a head trainer, for technology. At the same time, her expertise, of course, everyone will be an expert here of being a mom. So, hi, Miss Maleng.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank
Right.
you for that
And,
nice welcome, Sir Jim.
and then last but not the least, we have Roxanne Fuentes. Roxanne Fuentes is she's been we've we've met for the first time in CDO last year. That was our first meeting, but we've been interacting in Facebook, in Twitter, or any other social media platform because we shared as a passion on the sustainable development goals, innovation, and I'm just proud of her because she's been doing a lot of great things, especially in CDO to support educators, especially in the public school. So hi Roxanne.
Hi, Jim. Hi, everyone. Good morning.
All right. So we have some common connections here. So um, Coach Cristine, Maleng, and Jessica, I'm connected with them through Xavier School, and through the EdTech for Jessica, Maleng, and Roxanne. It's for EdTech also and the different projects that I have. So I'm very happy that you are here. Um, when I made the post on our session for the day, the first thing that really came out is really super moms. So in our
Mhm.
discussion this time, I know you are experts in the different field, but I'm looking also forward in the from your sharing on the perspective of a parent, right? I'm pretty sure a lot. I've heard Miss Maleng, for example, we've been sharing our thoughts about distance education because of her sons and the worries and the opportunities. And I think that is something that our audience would like to hear from us. You know, we are teachers, but at the same time, how do we see it? How do you? I'm not yet a parent. So how do you how do how do you see it from the side of at home as parents? All right, so we're going to talk about SEL, social emotional learning, and then I've got this very good definition from Cassell. Social and emotional learning is the process through which children and adults understand and manage emotions, set and achieve goals or positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. So they're more than academic skills. I see them as lifelong learner skills, essential skills that will go beyond the school. So the first question is, I think it's on the first one, emotions. As an educator or a parent, how do we help students understand and manage their emotions? When I was crafting the question, I was situating it at this time of the pandemic, distance education, when it's not just anymore just the usual thing that we have, but we have the virus out there who's about to get us. So how do we help our students? So whoever goes first, let's see. Uh, let's start with Coach Christine.
Hello, good morning again. Okay. Well, I think as parents, no, we have to be aware of the things beyond our control. And obviously, the virus and the things that are happening outside because of the virus, because of the pandemic, is beyond our control. So, being aware of those things, parang, what do you call that, limit, no, limit our scope, no, when we want to fix or try to solve something. But at this point, again, name those things beyond our control. And I think the emotions of our children, and our own emotions, are within our control. So being able to name all these emotions can be a big step already to actually deal with those emotions, right? So I think that's the first step that we have to do. We have to teach our children to name their emotions. Sabi nga nila, di ba? Name it to tame it.
Oh, I love that. Name it to tame it. Um,
Siguro, Sir
Coach
Jim, to
Christine,
take from,
yeah,
yes,
Miss Maleng,
to
go on,
take,
go on.
yeah, based on what Miss Roxanne, I agree with with Coach Christine's statement. No, it is important that students are aware of their emotions. Even before wala pa si COVID, pre-COVID times, raising teenagers and kids are already tough, right? It's difficult. Why? Because this is their formative years. So now with the pandemic, as parents, we need to remain strong and make them aware, and at the same time be hopeful, because most of them, they usually easily give up. They don't have that enough understanding and maturity, but because this is their formative years, we need to remain strong for them as parents and let them explore their feelings, make them aware that nothing, this is not wrong, this is not something that they can be judged about, can be taken upon them. So just be there for them and continue life journey as a parent, and at the same time helping them cope up with the situation. So being aware and hopeful is important.
So, two things. Number one is Coach Christine directly says that there are certain things that we cannot control, like the pandemic. Although certain people can do can do something about it, right? But at the same time, there are things that are out of control. But Coach Christine says that our emotions are within our control, and then Miss Maling adds, it's good that we let our students, our kids, um, Christine says, name it to tame it. Miss Manning says, explore it, but we tell them we should not be judging them because their emotions is not it's not bad at all. I think those are very good insights. And it's still the first question, and we already have those good insights coming out. Jessica or Roxanne?
Okay, so let me go first. For me as a parent, I think the thing that I learned for my daughter Yana, the most effective way for me is to show her my feelings. Because for me as a parent, sometimes we tend to sugarcoat things. It's supposed to, to always be happy. It's supposed to be a happy disposition always. But I think one of the things that helped Yana also open up to me was for me to be able to open up my feelings to her as well. So if I am able to show her how I get angry, how I am sad, how I am frustrated with things, when we talk, I tell her that I wish this would happen. This I think if I would have reacted this way, this won't be the reaction of the other person. So I tend to have small talks with her, talking about how I feel about certain things, so that she will see that it's okay to have different kinds of feelings, and it's okay to feel sad, and not to be afraid of showing them. It's and not think of what others will say. If, for example, she feels this way because the sometimes the environment actually dictates what's the correct feeling of a person, right? This is the right way to react to a person or to a situation. But for me, I tell her we have different kinds of reactions. We have different kinds of dealing with things. And sometimes it's better to show them so that you won't be bottled up with all those feelings, and then one day you will explode. Those are the things that we do. And I think for me, that was a very effective way of her opening up to me as well. There.
Thank you, Jessica. Roxanne.
Mm, As a parent, so at the beginning of the quarantine, the issue actually concerned me more as a parent more than as a teacher. So, di ba, being on quarantine means we have to stay at home and be with family 24/7. And it's actually difficult for us because we are used to be, going out, visit the in-laws and family, bond with our kids, our family outside. But because of the pandemic, we are forced to change our schedules and routines, and that alone creates an anxiety and frustration, not just for our kids but for the entire family as well. So it's actually a challenge for parents and teachers nowadays. So, three things. First, as a parent and as an educator, we must be. The key term really here is modeling. No, we need to be able to manage our emotions first. We need to be stable because of the kids, especially our kids, will really know how we feel. I've worked with kids for the past 10 years, and the children, especially the younger ones, like my daughter, look up to us as adults and how we react to things that are happening now. So children mix or follows what adults do. It's the same with emotions. So that's why during at this time, especially at home, I try to stay positive, and do things that I usually do even before the pandemic, and introduce other ways to bond because we cannot go outside. So we cooking, painting, dancing, singing at home, and stuff like that. Which boils down to my second point, which is mindfulness. It's really very important nowadays because with this pandemic, it's our future is very uncertain, right? So we really need to be at the present, be at the moment, and that somehow creates a positive attitude towards what is happening. So do mindfulness activities at home with your kids. It really helps a lot. And then lastly, we really need to tell our kids, tell them eye to eye what the situation is. So for my 6-year-old daughter, I had to explain in very simplest terms, like what the virus is, what COVID-19 is, why we need to wear our mask, why we need to physically distance ourselves from others. And it was difficult at first because things like I had to explain to her things like why I cannot kiss her or hug her up every time I come home from work. And it started with crying and questioning why these things are happening. But little by little each day I try to explain to her what is happening, and then little by little she was able to understand. And then it actually developed patience because she needs to wait that I need to clean myself up before we get to hug and kiss each other, stuff like that. And then lastly, we really need to know our children. No matter what advice we will give, no two children are alike, especially for younger kids. So there's actually a silver lining being in quarantine, and that is we get to spend more time with our family and our kids. It's the best time to know them, be friends with them, especially that their interactions with their peers right now are very limited, and get to know them, what makes them happy, sad, and angry, and you can actually start from there as a parent. I think that's
Uh,
it.
yeah. Two follow-up questions. I've heard from your answers, and the first question. This is for Coach Christine and Miss Maleng. Your thought really focus on naming, exploring your emotions so that you can tame it. If we have parents, yesterday it was when during the ed lecture, a lot of the discussion or questions from teachers is was that how do we help our parents or how do we help the parents at home, because the home is now the heart of learning within this new normal. Teachers have to start feeling accepting the fact that they have lost control right now because everything's they're all the students are at home. So naming that feeling, Coach Christine, what are or and Miss Maleng, what are the usual feelings that simple words that we could use? I remember maybe there might be some words that the simplest word that could help our parents and even the younger kids to describe their feelings. So what are those words might be?
Okay, first of all, I want to affirm what Jessica said, no? Parang her approach to her daughter was to also tell the daughter how she feels about all these things, no? That's what we call showing vulnerability to our children. And there's nothing wrong. And sometimes kasi it's we pressure ourselves, no, as parents, that we have to be positive, we have to be we have to do all these things to our children, and in reality it pressures us, while in fact we also need some mindfulness. We also need to check in with ourselves, so it's very important. So I agree with what Roxanne said a while ago. We have to model it, but sometimes it's too vague, no, when you say you model it. How do you model? Maybe we can start again to follow up what Roxanne said, to do mindfulness exercise. Now, we have that idea that when we do mindfulness, you're like a Buddhist na would do chanting and meditation and all. No. When we say mindfulness, it can simply be keeping quiet for 5 minutes and just naming all those emotions, just admitting to yourself that vulnerability. It's okay not to be superwoman at this point because we are all struggling. So that recognition that I think I'm not the only one feeling this way is a big fact. It's a big is a big help already for you to say na, okay, I'm not a loser because I'm feeling this. I'm sure I'm not the only one feeling anxious about the situation. And there are valid reasons for you to feel anxious about the situation. That admittance alone is a big help. You can tell, okay, you're asking, no, parang, how can we maybe how can we do self-talk, no? We're talking about the parents here, because really I also believe that modeling is key to um to to educating our children about their emotions. So if we have that mask wherein we pretend to be strong all the time, then it's going to be difficult for our children to understand raw emotions, no? So it's okay if you feel like crying just because you heard a news that's so terrible. If you feel tired already because of the household chores you're doing, say it. Maybe they will help you, Par. They will help you.
True, true. I
Yeah,
agree.
so it's really all these things, because we have to be aware also of our mindset before, no? Parang when you say super mom, you introduce us that way, Mr. Toscano, super mom, but it's so parang it's taking a toll on our mental health when we have that mindset, no? When we have that mindset, super mom. But at this point, I think it's high time for us to be humble enough to admit that we also experience, just like Superman, yung kryptonite niya, we also have our
Yeah.
kryptonite. So what are those kryptonites? So the virus, the things that are happening beyond us, no? That's my point a while ago when I say we have to be aware of the things beyond our control. Obviously, we're not part of the government. We cannot contribute to the solutions they're coming up at this point. But things beyond our control, again, our emotions, how we deal with our children, and maybe it's also good to revisit the things we value at this point, because I think just like I think it was Jessica who mentioned it, no? The way we react. I want to change the word, or I want to replace the word with how we respond. I think we can better respond to all these things that are happening to us if we are aware of the things we value. If we say that we value our family, I think it's a good, it's a good reminder that, okay, at this point, maybe I set aside chores first because I value my family, I value my time with my child. So, siya muna. Diba? Siya muna. But again, there's something with that vulnerability that we have to express ourselves at this point, and it's okay. Don't be afraid to be judged. If you don't want your children to judge their feelings, don't also judge your feelings.
Your feeling.
Don't also judge your feelings. And when we say, you're again, let me go back to talking about mindfulness. It doesn't have to be an hour of being quiet. That's also impossible. But if you have the luxury of time, then why not, right? But 5 minutes of just being silent and you naming your emotions. At this point, maybe you feel you're too tired of the chores. You can tell yourself, I am tired. Because again, just like what I've said a while ago, name it to tame it. If you think you're tired, if you feel you're tired, then what does it say? You have to rest. Diba? You have that's so basic. When you're tired, you rest. When you're no one's gonna take it against you if you're not able to do the laundry at this hour particular time. No one will take it against you if you just have your food delivered at this point, right? So
Yes.
I guess that one, we have to model the behavior that we want our children to display, but it requires vulnerability on our part.
All right. Thank you for those wonderful ideas, Coach Christine. I want to go to Miss Maleng. Miss Maleng, I remember during the first time of the pandemic, Miss Maleng and I were exchanging thoughts on the level of how do we support teachers and schools at this time of the pandemic. That was the first discussion. But then in the end, Miss Maleng was sharing about her experience at home. So Miss Maleng, are there things?
Yes. Thank you, Sir Jim.
Yeah.
No, I like the word modeling. No, honestly, I don't like to be called super mom because I'm not a super mom. I'm a learning mom. Imagine, I've been working for almost 25 years of my life, and I'm technically a Saturday and Sunday mommy. That's the time I spend most with my kids. So when the pandemic was announced, it was a terrifying experience for me. Having no house helper, meaning I will do everything at home, and at the same time, I was in a state of panic because I'm a diabetic, no? So if you get to read the website of DOH, people who have compromised health situations like me, diabetic and all that, are those who would most likely be severe when they are affected or get infected. So I was really afraid, worried, all of that emotion, plus troubled by the household chores, and at the same time, trying to be cool in front of my children. So it's true that I really got scared and in a state of panic for, I think, 3 days. I couldn't sleep. I'm so worried about the future of my children, of work, of the world. Almost everything was really crushing. And what really helped me as a parent, not as a parent, but spiritually, is to get connected with God. So I started attending online masses. It gave me hope. It gave me peace. So despite of the situations, I realized that I can still smile, knowing that things may not be in control, but God is in control. So after I tried to calm down myself, the second part was to calm down my children, making them realize things will be okay. Yes, it will be different. Mommy will be the one cooking the food now. So they're always scared if it's me who's going to cook the food. I don't know how to cook. So thank you to the YouTube channels, to Mamacita Mix Ingredients. I was able to cook some meals, and I became interested in learning how to cook. And I guess one thing that helped me also is the support group with other co-parents that I have formed. No, so I have this chat group called beautiful mommies. These are the parents of my student of the classmates of my children. So we exchange ideas. So currently, one of the mommy there already pulled out her child and is a homeschooling mom. So during the pandemic, we've been doing weekly Zoom session, trying to introduce our own kids, to this online distance learning early on. And on a Saturday, my turn, I do art classes with these children. So all of this thing, modeling and getting connected with co-parents, learning from each other, is really, really helpful on my end. That's just what I would like to share, Sir June.
Yeah, thank you, Miss Maleng. I think that was a very wonderful sharing, because it shows that it people can relate. Roxanne just mentioned a while ago in the private chat she can relate with the cooking part. I for one, I'm not a parent. I don't have a family, but I had no choice but to learn how to cook also. I mean, I know how to fry and boil, right? But I have to level up, or else I'm gonna die with pancit canton or boiled egg, or a hot dog, all those kinds of things. Very interesting. Um, there's a tension here about being honest, but at the same time, I also know that there are things that we might not, need to tell our the children, right? Whether as a teacher or whether as a parent. So I think there is that. I think, and I believe that is a good tension. I don't know if there's a perfect way of saying what needs to be shown, what is not needed to be shown. But like I like what Miss Malang has mentioned. I think that's one thing that we need to understand as educators or as parents. We're learning from the experience, and we're doing this for the first time. I always say this in my workshop, even for school leaders, because school leaders, some of them do not sleep just to make good decisions and plan out. And they feel comforted when they hear the phrase or sentence that says it's okay because we're doing this for the first time. No one's gonna do it perfectly. Even I think parenting, teaching, all things are being put into tests. The pandemic is a litmus test. That's one of the things that I've been saying. Not a litmus test to separate who is good, who is bad, but it's a litmus test for those people who would who knows how to continue learning, right? I think that was a very good insight as a parent. I think that's one good insight for everyone. We're learning this. We are learning from all our experience. Um, I'm also learning by I'm also learning, by the way. So I love the vulnerability idea. This was my concern, and I want to extend this also. We have this mindset of perfection, like in the education system. We clap for the perfect student. We put posters, print material, what do we call that, banners, tarpaulin. We put the perfect students in the pedestal, as if we have that idea that perfection is really that wow. I think that also creeps into the idea of parenthood, that the best parents are the perfect ones, the best teachers are the perfect ones, the best students are the perfect ones. Well, in fact, no one's perfect. So I love the idea that what you mentioned. Maybe my idea of super mom is actually you are super because you are very courageous in showing your vulnerability, your vulnerable side. Maybe that's the source of strength right now. The source of strength is not being able to do this perfectly, but being able to deliver the idea that hey, I also feel negative things. I also feel these emotions. I also am weak at this area, but I am courageous enough to share it to you and to show it to others. So thank you, thank you. I think that was a wonderful idea that came from every one of you. That's our first. For me, that's my first learning from everyone. So I will still call you super moms because you are very, very courageous in showing and telling everyone that you are also vulnerable. I think that's a good one learning that I have. So we're talking about
Thank you, Super June.
okay. So we tell our students, if we're teachers, and parents, naming the emotions to tame it, exploring all the emotions. I want to focus on one idea right now: empathy. Right? Empathy has been such a buzzword even before the pandemic. Like, it's an essential skill to thrive in the fourth industrial revolution. You need empathy. Right now, what does empathy look like at this time when everything's going crazy, when we don't know what's going to happen, and we see that there are a lot of people who are being affected? So, how does empathy look like right now? Ini, mini, miny, mo.
I think just the idea of showing your vulnerability is a good way to practice empathy, 'di ba? So I think it's actually parang it's actually self-explanatory, when you show your struggles, when you show how you're also trying to balance things out at this point, is a good opportunity to teach empathy. Actually, you don't have to define it, diba? To define it for the students and for your children to know what empathy is. But just as a parent, no, and as a teacher, just validating the emotions of your students and children can give them an idea of what empathy is. So parang, and sometimes, diba, do you have that idea sometimes that you always have to answer their questions? But you know what, in reality, no, we're not required to. We're not required to actually always give an answer to their question. And that's one good reminder that, yes, we also know, our knowledge is also limited. So parang let's go journey together in this pandemic. And uh, the question of Jim kanina, parang how do you balance it? What do you tell your children and what not to tell your children? I think the advantage of being a teacher mom is what's age appropriate, right? Diba? You know what's age appropriate. And of course, if you're a mindful parent, I think you don't have to be a teacher to know that what's appropriate for your children to hear at this point. Diba? So you will see that, you will see that in their reaction if they're not yet ready for that concept that you're discussing about this pandemic and all. So the cue here is really to be mindful. How is my daughter or how is my child responding to what I'm saying? I think she's not yet ready for this information. So you can again explain things using appropriate age appropriate words.
That is a callback to what Roxanne has mentioned. Right? Roxanne has mentioned a while ago that, and I've read this also online and I heard from World Health Organization. It's very important that we explain to the children, to the student, what's happening, not to shield them, because shielding them from the reality will actually result into negative things. And I like that what Roxanne has mentioned. We explain the virus or what's happening through the simple words or the simplest words, especially for the young ones. Empathy, like what Coach Cristine has mentioned, is about letting them see that you're vulnerable, at the same time encouraging them to put themselves in their shoes as a parent. And I've seen empathy also work in some of the young kids, the young adults that I know right now. A lot of them are mobilizing their communities, their groups, their friends, to help other people. Would you encourage that as one action that stems from empathy for other people? Roxanne, for example, I know Roxanne. Roxanne is very active in their community for the JCI, right, Roxanne? On your perspective, Is that something that we should continue encouraging?
Yes, yes, and I think we should, as a parent and a teacher na volunteer at that, we should also be exploring this opportunity for our kids, no? We can expose our kids to things like this. In fact, whenever we do activities like that, I always tag along my kid, and she is also very immersed in the community, and that experience alone actually builds that sense of empathy towards other people. But right now, it's really very limiting, as I said, because they're not allowed to go out and they're staying at home. So primarily, our interaction is just me and her and the people who are at this time. But of course, um, whenever I do these things, even in online, she still see me do it, and I think that's a very good exposure for her as a kid, as early as like she's still like 6 years old, so it's a very good opportunity actually for her. And let me share lang this as a teacher, no, na I've been teaching English for the past few years, and what I really like the lesson, and one of the things that I really love to teach is cause and effect, because it is one of the lessons where I can integrate or build upon the lesson on empathy, like teaching the students or even my kid to always ask the question why, why is it happening? Why is other kids like that? And it should be followed by the question, what should, what if, how would. I'm sorry, I'm very technical about it because I'm a teacher and we need to do all
Mhm.
these management of behavior process, and it's really a very good opportunity to teach empathy with integrating these kinds of lessons in our academic subjects as well. So that's it.
Roxanne, that's a very good segue. Thank you for that segue. The struggle really for a lot of teachers, educators right now is there's so much focus on the academic side because we're doing this for the first time. We want to make sure that our online distance learning, that our distance education, whether it's print based or a blended, whether it's blended modalities, we want to make the academics as perfect as we can. We need to prepare the modules, the presentations, and everything. My question is, how do we like social emotional learning, self-management, self-awareness, relating with other people, empathy, for example, how do we put that in the programs that are being created right now? Roxanne has already started that. Like, if you have a lesson in English, like cause and effect, add in the idea of empathy. But a lot of teachers right now simply see the module as academic, right? These are your learning goals, these are your competencies, these are the things that you will need to do to achieve those competencies. But the competencies are very academic. So, how do we weave, that's the word, weave into the curriculum these non academic skills?
I
Um,
think, Sir Jim,
yes,
it should be intentional. Uh, School leaders or coordinators, head of school, should really be intentional in injecting in their curriculum projects and activities that would allow students to feel what other people feel or to empathize, no? Like reflective learning activities or group projects that will allow them to get connected with each other and understand a specific sector in the society that needs help. Usually, kids they look at empathy as helping other people, but as young as they are, they think they cannot help anyone. But it's not necessarily helping anyone. Just being on their shoes or feeling what the other person might feel, it's already a good way. No? So I remember when I was teaching at Xavier School, it was so hard to make my students at the time to feel how it is to become poor. They have not experienced hunger, number one. So whenever I explain or I interpret poems that is about hunger or something that expresses the scent of a canal, ano ba English ng canal? Sorry. Yung ganun, parang they don't know how to be be in that position because they have not experienced hunger, they have not experienced the smell of the slums. So it's really tough for children, but it's not their fault because it's really part of their growing. So I admire schools like Xavier and some other schools who do immersion activities that allow students to have a glimpse of that kind of life that they have not experienced. No? So letting students to share their emotions and explore their own emotions, even through photos. If they see a photo and process how they feel about it, they can write, they can do reflective thinking. So it's always, it should be intentional. That's just what I think about it.
I think I agree with Miss Maleng. No, it should be intentional. In case we have what we call homeroom periods, those are sessions with the life coach, with the life coaches. So we have this curriculum. We follow actually that, the competence, the how many competencies, the competencies of the social emotional learning, and we have sessions for that. No, so every parang twice a month, we have sessions with the different grade levels. And I would like to add something to empathy. When we say empathy, we can also use the term taking perspective. Now that our movements are very limited and we cannot expect parents to allow their children to actually go to communities to be able to learn empathy, no? Siguro, let's not pressure ourselves with that idea that we have to immerse them to ano ba, urban poor communities to actually feel or to learn empathy. I'm not saying that we're not supposed to do that. I also came from Xavier School, no? Our office campus ministry is actually doing all those things. Now we bring them to poor communities to immerse them and all. But I realized that some kids are actually having a hard time. No, it's not their fault because it's really parang they were born with a different lifestyle, no? So we cannot take it against them. But when we say empathy, maybe we can start with the idea that they learn not to judge. They learn not to judge themselves. They learn not to judge other people. Parang let's put aside the idea that, oh, at this point you have to be doing this for the community, because you know what, I'm working with the youth and I'm coaching them, and sometimes it's a big pressure for them to realize that at this point they have not done something like that. Parang it's a pressure for them. So I would tell them that it's okay, but at this point, you feel that seeing all people, all the experiences of people, and you're not judging them, that's already a step, no, towards learning empathy without judging their experience. For example, a community is poor. Sometimes they'd say, because they're too lazy, they don't want to, blah, blah, blah. So things like those, no? But for the students to learn that, they don't actually have a choice sometimes, no? They were born in that kind of situation. And if we can hear our students say na, okay, what can we do? Or maybe at this point, parang I don't want to judge that the reason why they're poor is because they're lazy, is actually taking perspective already, or showing empathy. Again, our context today is that we are very limited with our movements. So our struggle is, how can we, parang let's not despair, knowing that we cannot bring our children out and do community work, no? But as simple as you checking if they have different judgment with the situation around, can be a teaching opportunity for them to teach empathy and taking perspective.
All right, wonderful, wonderful explanation. I think that's very, very important right now. Um, I think because we've been really gearing education to become action oriented, like there should be a concrete action, a result, and it's oriented towards other people. I mean, we value the idea of men and women for others, helping other people, and that really stems from the idea that I for one would even say, would even ask, why did you help that person? And then some people would say, I feel, what's the term? I because they need help. They are in a less unfortunate situation. And yet, when you unravel the deeper reason behind it, it does not go down. It's like feeling lang na, uy, naawa ako. So bibigyan kita. But when you ask,
Yeah.
do you really understand what's happening? Because sometimes donating something might not be the best, right, solution, right? Maybe the best answer is to uncover what causes the suffering, the struggle of another person. I think those are ways towards teaching what it means to help others, to be other oriented. Those should be anchored. Those should be anchored on understanding what's happening. But we're not also negating the fact it's still okay. We can help other people. We can still help other people. It's just that for it to be sustainable, I think, and to understand what's really happening in the system, we might need to put ourselves really on the shoes of the people who might be marginalized, who might be suffering, and that is a sure practice of empathy. But I agree with everyone. Let's not despair, because there's always, especially for the young kids, there's always maybe a pressure for them to help others. But movement is limited. Of course, we can have digital donations, things like that. But then in the end, things are limited, so we don't despair. Feeling, understanding what's happening, that also is already a big step towards it. So, and maybe when we are already free to move around, then we can have more concrete action. So
Sir
there,
Jim, if I may
yes,
share,
yeah.
uh, this is a drawing, a digital artwork of my 8-year-old son. During the pandemic, there was a call from our ITM to share digital cards, and my son created some cards, get well soon cards to the patients. So um, letting them help their own way, using their own talents early on is something that, though yes, they cannot do anything at the moment. Even I don't know how to help, diba? Pero somehow we can support our children in exploring the little ways they can find way to help or reach out during this pandemic. I just like to share. I just thought of this also. Thanks.
I think that's a
I'll add,
wonderful example. Roxanne,
I'll add one more thing lang din. Teaching empathy kasi or showing empathy doesn't have to be grand. Speaking from the public school system, no, which it's really difficult to teach empathy among these children, especially that how can they show empathy towards others when they themselves are experiencing the difficulty. So I always tell my students that it doesn't have to be grand, and it's as simple as saying a polite expression towards your classmates or towards your teachers or towards your friend. As simple as that, it is already showing empathy towards others. It doesn't have to be grand talaga yung empathy.
yes. So, just a heads up to our viewers, we are now moving to the last part. We prepared some questions here, a lot of questions, but just the first question actually stemmed, just are actually naturally moving to the others. But we are now in the last part. So if there are thoughts or questions from our viewers, now's the time to post them so that we can scroll down later when we're done. And I really love Roxanne because she's doing some segues for me. She mentioned about and this is something that is very very real right now. If we're doing online distance learning, at some point there is a communication. So we can do like Coach Cristine, for example, or maybe Jessica through the computer teachers when we teach digital citizenship and all those things. There's always a way to communicate. There's a direct interaction. The challenge right now is, what if for some schools, whether it's private or public, you're doing print based distance education, access to internet is not there, learning device is not there. Some students might not even access or families to cell phones. So how would kasi this is the classic case again. Those who can interact, have connection, will have the opportunity to talk about social emotional learning, to be guided by teachers or whatever, because they can interact with them. What about our students who may be stuck at home working on their own, right? And there's no direct way that parents, or no, that teachers could interact with them and help them understand social emotional learning. What would be some solutions or some tips or ways on how we could do that when students are stuck at their home, they're doing printed materials, and there might not be a very regular connection with the teacher?
Siguro
For the
one thing
public
good about, I'm
step,
sorry.
I say, because we're doing a modular learning modality, like in our division, it's 95% modular learning modality. It's only like 5% for online learning. So it's actually a difficult task. It's our first time, so it's actually on a gray matter, Sir Jim. Um, what what advice I could give as a teacher, the way I see it, is really just opening up the communication lines between the teacher and then the parent, because there's no other way that you can really like connect with the students, especially for modular or print based learning modality. The communication is really just in between the parents and the teachers. That's why DepEd is also very is preparing things for that. In the first, in fact, next week we will be doing parang psychosocial intervention for parents, and then guiding them up on how they could teach their kids at home, building on the social emotional learning uh, part of the kids, and how they can assess their kids in the academic tasks, especially in completing their modules. So I think really it's right now it's really up to the communication between the teacher and then the parent. That's for one.
Yes, I think that's really a struggle right now, in terms of guidance, right? In terms of guiding the kids. But Roxanne has really mentioned a concrete, well, what most people would say as a concrete solution. It's really bringing the parent, right, at the forefront of education right now, because in distance education, um, if they do print-based modalities, their only interaction with the teacher is through the modules, right? And it's self-learning, independent learning. I love the idea of Roxanne of opening the lines. Maybe this is the high time also that parents and teachers really work together, especially in supporting the kids right now. So one of the solutions that I've heard, for example, and I credit this with, I think it's in Visayas, my friend from Cebu or Samar, teachers, they shared that they have actually identified vulnerable students, and if, of course, following the protocol of the government in their locality, they are actually very willing to visit homes to provide support, not just for the to really provide support for the vulnerable students. And of course, the idea of vulnerable students, or high risk students, is very very it's big. So they have different ways of doing that. Another solution that I've heard is they're gonna bring the parents, like, kung kaya nga nilang pumila sa ayuda, di ba? Dapat kaya din nilang pumila at mag-attend ng orientation para sa education ng kanilang anak. So I
True.
heard that educators, one division or district, they're planning to do the orientation. Of course, with social distancing in the barangay or the local gymnasium, right? Kasi yun nga yung idea, kung kaya nilang pumila for ayuda, kaya din nila dapat pumila at makinig kung paano turuan ang kanilang mga anak. They should be able to line up also and take part in the orientation. And this is being led by teachers and school leaders. And I love that idea also. So any other thoughts from our panel?
Siguro, that's one advantage of having this remote learning is we can always count on the things that are happening at home. So sometimes if you feel that as a teacher, your movements are also limited because there's low connection or there's no internet connection, we have to trust that there are things happening at home also that students can learn from. No, our environment is imperfect. We are imperfect as parents. We can always do things that will break them, But let's trust the process that these children will have their own capacity of processing things, and I think that's a wonderful gift, no, for to all of us, that we're able to make sense of our experiences no matter how imperfect the situation is. So I think parang it's so encompassing when we talk about social emotional learning. It's really just making the kids realize that you can make meaning, you can make things, you can connect things, no, kahit some experiences are ugly, or diba, some experiences are imperfect, but they can make sense of all these. They can find connection in all these things, and at the end, even if we give so limited resources to them, they will come out okay of the situation.
All right. Thank you so much. Je?
Yeah. For me, I think the very first thing we should all do as parents and teachers is to let go. We have to accept this is a different year.
Yeah.
Tanggapin natin, iba to. There are things that we will not be able to achieve. There are things that the school will not be able to achieve. There are things that the students will not learn. And it's okay. They will leave. Mabubuhay sila. And sometimes the pressure of actually achieving those things also takes away the fun of everything, or the fun in learning.
The beauty, no, the beauty of
Yeah.
things. When you try to when you try to intellectualize
Right?
everything.
Correct. So
Yeah.
I think that was one of the very first things I learned this year, is to let go. Because before, if you are a teacher and a parent, I think that's where the frustration comes in, because we have certain goals. We're taught to achieve certain goals as a teacher. Imagine having
certain
correct, diba?
standards
I
for
know,
our
right? Imagine having a mom, a teacher mom who wants to do things, or who wants you to achieve things. So how much pressure would that be to a child, diba? So the very first thing that we should do as both a parent and a teacher is to let go of things that are okay to let go. Diba? We have to select the important things in life that will
Choose
make.
your battles.
Correct. So hindi lahat kailangang tanggapin, kailangang gawin. Pwedeng i-let go yung mga bagay na hindi naman important. Those things that are not as important as we think they should be when they are in a face-to-face classroom or when they're in our home. So for me, as a parent, I've learned to give up things that I think are important for me, because we have to admit we have certain things that we want our child to achieve, right? And in a year, parang kailangan ganito yung makuha mong grade, kailangan matapos mo to, magawa mo to. But in reality, we have to accept as parents as well that we're all in a pandemic. Therefore, it's okay if things don't work out well initially, or it's okay for us to not be able to achieve all those goals. Marami pang araw na magaganap, marami pang pwedeng mangyari. So we have to just be able to accept those things first. And as Coach Ting was mentioning, it's very important that we use the home to learn, because obviously this past years it hasn't been the center of education. We always say that we learn everything in school, so therefore there should be a shift in how the students should learn. So we make use of the things that they have in school. For me, my suggestion, Jim, would be to have authentic projects, projects that are done in real life, projects that will give more meaning to actual topics that we're teaching. Lagi nating sinasabi, ba't mo ba tinuturo yan? What is the essence of teaching a topic? But the students will just learn it only if they see why it's important. And this is the perfect time to teach it. So for me, those are the things that are important for me this school year. There.
I'm just gonna
And
tease Jessica. Jessica is saying let go because she has a new teenager in life. I'm just kidding. But I think that's very very important to understand the idea of letting go. I think I don't know, because we do not know what's gonna happen. Personally, I have a fear of not knowing. I mean, it's okay that I plan for everything. I want to plan everything, but when there are moments when I do not really know what's gonna happen, it freaks me out. And I
No,
really,
right?
I really need to make time. Like for example, if change before I believe I was able to process this already myself, but changes in schedule before, oh my gosh, it would take me days to process and adjust it. I just don't show it to people, but but it takes me some time. Like changes, you don't know things. It freaks us a lot because we're so afraid of the future that is unknown. So again, I think the idea is really boiling down. To the It's all boiling down to the idea that vulnerability, those things that we were scared of because it would show imperfections in us even if we know that we are not perfect, because we fear that other people would judge us, right? It's always that idea of you're not doing this well as a teacher, you're not doing this as a parent, so people would just judge you. You're not a good teacher, you're not a good parent, those kinds of mentalities. But then who's doing it perfectly anyway, right? Who's doing it perfectly anyway? And I love that our discussion, because it came out from our discussion that in order for us to teach social emotional learning skills like self-management, managing emotions, developing empathy, it's really us understanding ourselves. Or if you're a parent, it's modeling. So, I don't know, maybe because tama ba to, it's a Korean novela. Miss Maleng and Jessica might have watched it. It's okay not to be. Is that it's
Okay.
it's not in the Philippines.
Oh my God, I'm going to share that in a little while. But yes, that's my favorite K-drama now. It's okay not to be
It's
okay.
okay not to be okay.
Yes, so nice. Watch it.
may
Okay,
plug pa.
there's one question here which I would like. I don't know if we are very capable of answering this, but Coach
It's
Christine,
okay not to be okay.
Christine
Okay.
would be able to answer this.
It's okay not to be okay.
It's okay not to be okay. Okay.
No, it's okay not to answer it. So
Sorry,
it's
Miss
okay.
Jessica.
Go,
Pareho
go.
tayo, Miss Jessica.
How are you going? This is from
The hidden messages of fairy tales. No, it's so nice.
okay. This is from Leon Shaw Johalbot. How are
Super,
you
super
going
ganda.
to provide or
Siguro,
accommodate?
Sir Jim, if I may say.
Okay, go, Miss Maling Atan.
Sir Jim,
Yes,
siguro if I may share lang
okay.
doon. Ano. Sige, sige, sorry.
No, Miss Maling, you go first before I go to the question.
There's a delay.
There's a
Yeah,
delay.
yeah.
Okay, so this is the question. How are you going to provide or accommodate students with special needs? or with quote unquote disability, how to prepare them now in online or distance education for their part of the mainstream class.
Mm, maybe it's important to establish routines for these children. Because remember, most of the students with special rights, we call them children with special rights now, no? They need structure. So it's very important that you teach them how to make their own schedule and really follow these schedules. So that, I think that's one concrete way we can deal with students who are struggling academically, or students with condition, especially children with autism, and uh, children who are diagnosed with ADHD. These are the children who really need to see structure in their day. So, yun.
Yeah, I think it's really a difficult one. I don't know if we're really capable of answering it. We're not. I for one, I'm not an expert. That's not my area of expertise, special education. But that is a good. Actually, that's a good topic. I don't see much webinars about it, which is I think is a sad reflection again. I think that's a sad
It's this.
reflection.
Sorry.
Go, Colton.
Kasi it's ano eh, we have to contextualize it. When we say special children, we have different kinds of children with special rights. So are we talking about autism? Are we talking about ADHD? Are we talking about learning disability only? So all these things will differ how you deal with them, no? So very encompassing kasi yung children with special rights. So that has to be contextual.
All right.
Sir
So I
Jim,
hope.
in our school, we actually have special education classes, and we have enrollees as well. I think there are projects, or there are programs being done, or accommodations being done, being prepared for by DepEd for special education. So let's just wait and see what's gonna happen.
Because that's very interesting because in one of the reports of UNESCO, they included children with special needs or need special services and support in school. In one of the reports, they actually mentioned that they're one of the most vulnerable learners right now. Because distance education is not really, I mean, there are literature that says it's good, especially for professional people for those learning. I, for one, it's doing masters for distance education, but doing it for younger kids, it's very challenging. And then when you put vulnerable students or learners, it becomes more challenging also. And we don't have much data. It's really because we're doing this again for the first time. So we're doing this for the first time. Special education would be very, very challenging. So I hope that we get to see more
Yeah.
webinars actually, or more trainings. I don't know, more studies, or maybe some good practices, best practices on it, because we also do recognize that we have students who are depending. Actually, there are a lot of students who depend on school services, especially in the public school sector. Support for food, access for food, support for guidance, counseling. And when that is gone because of the school closure and they are at home, they are again at a bigger risk. And that's a study from UNESCO, and I hope we take a look at those things also. So, like what Roxanne has said, let's try to wait how DepEd would actually guide us in doing this. So we have another question here. Um, there is one question, and maybe this is coming from the idea. This question again is, how do you assess social emotional learning skills? I think it's really because a lot of educators right now do not have a good background, right? If you say skills, for example, how are SEL skills, social emotional learning skills, can we assess them? Or what is the proper way in guiding students develop their skills?
Sir Jim, I think it's like asking which is a happy smile, this length smile or this length of smile. I think emotional and social skills cannot be measured. That's why we cannot judge it. And it's something that you just have to express, recognize, understand. That's why we're saying it's okay not to be okay. The traditional way was to believe that everything should be perfect, straight, but
Or
with the
measured.
pandemic,
Measured.
diba na? Or that's why growing up, I also thought I'd like to become a Barbie when I grow up. And I also thought I would be a Miss Universe, but it never happened. I, I didn't grow up at all that thought. Anyway, I was just saying that uh, I'm happy that this world is more expressive and allowing differences. Like now we are okay with the LGBT communities. We recognize that not everyone inside the classroom who becomes valedictorian or first honor becomes successful when they graduate. Even the artistic people, we see that it's really should be the mixture of creative and knowledge, creative knowledge and emotional. So those are the. It should be a complete mix. It's not just one side of it. So it's okay, I think.
So it's okay not to measure, not to assess, because there are some educators. There might be some educators who might think that way because quote and unquote skills, and the
Yes.
traditional way of looking at it. If you put it in the lesson, you have to assess it, right?
Yes,
Right,
sir.
Siguro,
I
may,
agree.
I'm
Um,
sorry, go.
Sige, so
Roxanne?
social emotional learning cannot be assessed because as I said earlier, no two children are alike, right? But it can always be seen or be manifested with in terms of the change in behavior. So you can actually see that in their behavior.
Yeah, change in behavior and the quality of their relationships. Not only relationship with themselves, but with others also. And yun nga, kasi we're talking about here self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, and also the quality of their responses to the situation they're experiencing. You're not going to put it in a pen and paper assessment. You can't measure it that way, but the way the person is living her or his life.
And like what we've said, it's a process, it's a journey, right? So
Yeah.
we
Mm-mm.
should be more often open to the different changes that we have. I think it's coming from the idea that there are some strategies like journaling. Like yesterday, I introduced the idea of rose, thorn, bud. It's a way of journal. Rose is identify something that you were happy about during the day. Thorn is a challenge, and bud is an idea that is growing in you. Things like that. And of course, every time we ask the students to do something, we always think traditional educators, should we check it? Should we grade it? Right? It's okay. It's okay not to grade. It's
Let
okay.
go, ma.
Yes, because those are journals. If
Mm-mm.
the kids are happy to share it to you, then I will feel privileged because they're letting me have an insight of who they are, right? So I think that for these kinds of areas, non-academic things, they're non-academics that not grade them, but it doesn't mean also that we can put them. We can put them like what Miss Maleng has said, intentional. I think we need to be purposeful, right? Hindi for the sake of, or there's a character, there's a story. Sige nga, mag-empathy exercise na lang tayo. Tapos for the sake of academic pa rin, hindi lumalim. Did that go deeper. So, those kinds of things. So I hope those were some of the things. We have a lot of ideas, and I think it will require much longer time to discuss more about these things. Um, any final thoughts from our panel?
Final thought. Siguro ako, I'll go first para no pressure na. But maybe in this time of difficulty, we have to uh, we have to be aware that presence is not is not the same as being present, just being present, no, physically, but really, the world needs our presence. Our family needs our presence. And when we say presence, you're there. You're right there at the moment, knowing their needs, knowing what pains them, what gives them joy. And at the same time, you also do that to yourself. No, be present for yourself also, and be aware where you're coming from. Because at the end of the day, what we all want is just to really be be uh be for other people, right? So presence.
All right. Thank you, Tin. Presence. Jessica.
Okay. Sige, for me, I think I will be sharing about my perspective from the parent side naman. So first, you have to realize that we were brought up differently compared to how we bring up our children now, or currently form our children now. So the way we were brought up, for me, I think it was tough love. Di ba they call it tough love? We do things because we have a fear of of the consequences that will happen. But that's for me is totally different from what I want my child to grow up to. Parang I don't want her to be like that. So although I was brought up like that, I don't want that same perspective for my child. So my point is it's okay if there are things that you'd like to do differently from the way you were brought up, parang ganyan, as a parent, as a child. So we learn every day and we want to be able to use those learnings properly. Second is I'm glad that we talked about empathy because those are the things, or that is a topic that is not usually talked about both in the house and in the school. Parang hindi siya yung main focus. So I like that now people are more parang attuned with it in their feelings and in their thoughts. So for me, I think it's easy to empathize with when they are your loved ones, friends, family members. Pero ang pinakamahirap is to empathize with someone who is not in your circle of love. Diba? Someone who's not part of your circle. And I think that is one thing that I want to be able to teach my child, teach Yana to really empathize with people who are not connected with her. And this is the right time to do it because uh, we are in the house, so protected. Di ba para tayo naka-cage? Caging is both to protect you from the inside and from the outside as well. But because of that also, we get lesser opportunities for yun nga, for empathy. And this is the right time for it to be developed. So for me, teaching her to love people who are not within my cage or within my circle is one of the things that I want to be able to do. And then when I do that, I also want it to teach her that you do things with others, not do things for others. Kasi yun yung isa sa mga things na ginagawa natin, di ba? We always do things para lang sa kanila, but we don't really uh, parang we don't join them in doing it. So for me, the learning happens twice if they're both doing it, or the empathy is both ways. So yeah. And then the last is, as a digital citizenship advocate, I'd like to emphasize the three things that the American Pediatric Association is suggesting for our children, both for students and teachers and parents alike, is to co-view, co-play, and co-engage. Yan. So, wag nating hayaan. Don't let our children do things on their own. Watch the things that they watch. Play with them if there's a need so that you can empathize more with what they like, because knowing them is also giving them the chance to know you more. So, there's better communication. And co-engage, yun nga, if you really, really love your children and your students, engagement is really important. So for me, those are the things that I want to focus on this school year. Yeah. Thank you.
Roxanne and Miss Maleng, final words.
Okay, so siguro, thank you, Sir Jim, for this opportunity, no? As a mother, I promised myself that this year, I will not be a helicopter mom. I will be more understanding. Parang inisip ko lang, in the past, during the war, walang education, walang school talaga. So with this pandemic, I'm still glad that somehow merong online education for my children. But I'm also yung masyadong conscious sa mga grades and efforts nila. That's why this year I promised myself it's okay if they're not okay. Importante hindi kami tumatakbo or may mga bomba sa gera na nakakaapekto sa learning nila. So yun lang, parang it's okay na hindi sila maging honor student this year. All I want them is to really enjoy learning. Last week nagkaroon ng practice Zoom learning yung isa kong anak. And I asked him after attending that, how was it? Sabi niya, boring. So, doon pa lang, na-feel ko na kung ano yung magiging future nung isang taon na to. Why? Because he's the type of person na mas happy siyang pumapasok sa school, nakikita yung classmate, nakikipagyakapan, nakikipaglaro, tumatakbo. School means being with classmates. So now that they will be at home and online, opposite talaga nung outside and in touch. So it's really something na I should be more understanding. So it's okay if this year hindi sila masyadong maging honor as long as maitawid lang namin tong taon na to. And for my role naman as a training head of PBSI, as a supplement to parents, we created lang mga, before kasi we have summer workshop activities. So what we did was to extend it. Hindi na siya summer lang. Until December, we have some coding classes and some other learning classes that parents can take a look at. Everything is online to supplement the learning of their children. And I know that our country is not really ready for anything related na online. That's why ang hirap din talaga ng struggle ng teacher, natin lahat. But yes, I am supportive of this endeavor. Yes, I agree to have a virtual school inside my home. And I still agree that home education is the best. So back to basic lang talaga lahat. And ayun, wala munang pagalingan. Tulungan muna for the parents and for the teachers. I think that's one thing. It's a very humbling experience that we are experiencing this pandemic. It's taking us away from everything that we've been so accustomed to and trying to see more ourselves as a dun lang sa mga basic things. Thank you for this opportunity to share also, Sir Jim, and to listen to the experts that I am with today. Ma'am Cristine, Ma'am Je, and Ma'am Roxanne. Thank you.
Roxanne?
Parting words. As a parent and as an educator, now that everything is uncertain, let us not lose hope. Hope that our kids will still learn and that they will still be okay. Hope that our families will rise above this challenge that we are experiencing. And hope that we will eventually be able to go out and be with our friends, families, and loved ones again. Once again. But for now, let's just take one day at a time. That's it. Thank you.
All right. So I agree with all the comments out here. You guys are such a wonderful bunch of speakers right now. We've after also a lot of discussions about academics finding our way in this remote learning distance education. I am also proud and happy that we have done such an episode today. So like I share the same sentiments with our audience, with our viewers, where I am very grateful of you for Christine, Jessica, Maleng, and Roxanne. Thank you for for sharing. I think I felt the sincerity, the honesty of you being educators in the different areas and and sectors. But I also what I appreciated is your honesty and your how do you call that, openness to share your personal experiences as parents. I think that has made our discussion much relatable. A lot of them says nakakagaan ng loob. It's enlightening. It made them feel better because I think it's really important to simply say out, shout out to the world that it's okay not to be okay. We're not, sabi nga ni Miss Maleng, hindi to pagalingan for now. It's really more of helping each other. We listen to each other's perspective. Coach Christine has given a lot of experience as a certified life coach. We are very grateful for your ideas and for your thoughts. I've learned a lot. Really, really. I think that I was schooled in this session because I'm not an expert on this. I just wanted to have a platform for conversation. And thank you for like the different like our participants. I too have learned. Hopefully, I don't know if I will become a parent, but
You have to. You have to. Para
You're
you
a
will learn
parent.
more.
You're a parent
I,
already. You have a cat.
I
A
yeah, the
guardian
cat
for
is
your money.
so sleeping. I love cats because they don't care. They
Mm.
don't care what's happening. But
Some
yeah,
teenagers are like that too.
they don't care.
Something.
Yeah, so thank you so much. This has been a very wonderful discussion. For our participants, some of you are answering. The link to the evaluation is seen on screen. I will be posting it later, also in our description. And thank you for being here with us for the whole of July. So we have completed this. Uh, Please stay tuned for further announcement of what's gonna happen in August. I just want to bring out also some good collaborations out here. Um, I've been collaborating with Miss Maleng for an app, so I will be posting later on. The empowerED app is already out there, but I will just be posting about it later. We've done a lot of content, so it's on blog and videos. I'm not a YouTuber. I'm not a YouTuber, but we hope to continue providing this online discussions. And of course, again for the last time, a very big massive thank you for our participants who have been supporting us, but at the same time our speakers. So again, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. This conversation is successful because of your dear presence. And last word, vulnerability. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, everyone, for sharing this. I will still call these four wonderful people as super moms because they have shown us the real meaning of what it means to be super. The real meaning of what it means to be super, it's not to be perfect, whether after the pandemic or during the pandemic. I hope that we don't go back to the usual things that we do before.
To be super. Am I clear now? To be super means not to be perfect, but to be super means like what the four wonderful moms have shown us is to admit that we cannot do all of things. We cannot be perfect, but we're very open to learning new things. All right. So thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank
Happy
you.
Sunday, everyone. We will keep the session. We will keep the live session going to show you some of the important things that you will need to do. So thank you so much, everyone. Happy Sunday. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Roxanne.